All right, the South African Jewish Board of Deputies and the South African Zionist Federation have called a meeting with President Cyril Ramaphosa with regards to the government's decision to withdraw the South African ambassador to Israel. The board and the federation said in a joint statement that the South African government has displayed double standards when it comes to the Jewish state and has described their decision as outrageous. Joining us now this morning in studio, we've got Zev Krengel, who is the Vice President of the South African Jewish Board of Deputies. Zev, thank you. Thanks very much for coming in. So in the statement, the Jewish Board of Deputies, the South African, says government's decision to withdraw, as I mentioned in the introduction, to withdraw the ambassador from Israel is outrageous. Tell us more.
So from the local Jewish community's point of view, we're very upset about it. Currently, there's 500,000 dead in Syria. There were 3 chemical attacks, known chemical attacks. Syrian government does nothing. Yemen, the war in Yemen between the proxies of Iran and Saudi, 10,000 civilians have been killed. Not a mention from the South African government. If you want to come into Africa, DRC, it's over 1,000 in political violence being killed. It's Kenya's over 700 over the 2 elections, and not a word. It's just the South African government never behaves this way with any other country in the world. But somehow when it comes to the Jewish state, 58 so-called protesters, invaders. Today now Hamas themselves are admitting out of those 50 of them were Hamas members. And all of a sudden they're recalling the ambassador. And it's first of all, it's not how South Africa behaves. Second of all, we can't help then try and sort out the conflict, no matter how, I always equate the difference was when there were tanks on the streets of Harare. We woke up to those tanks on the streets of Harare, which was very frightening. Was it the South African government didn't put blame on President Mugabe, they didn't put blame on the army. What did President Zuma did? He said, hang on, we better see what's going on, and he sent his envoy, and there was a peaceful solution. So South Africa in every other conflict plays a positive role, and on this conflict they just one-sided against the Jewish state, and as the local Jewish community that upsets
This has upset you. So you as the Jewish community felt that South Africa was too irrational, and by removing the ambassador to Israel is really a very big sign of defiance towards Israel and the situation in Palestine. So, I mean, what would you have liked the South African government to do?
So all what we would like to, and I challenge them to do it. They claim they've got this unbelievable relationship with Hamas. Look, thank goodness Egypt has stepped in and pulled Hamas back and said, if you want to do protests against a moving of an embassy, don't do it on the border. Don't try and cross the border. Just do the protests in Gaza. There's no Jews in Gaza. There's no Israelis in Gaza. Just move back. And the last 2 days have been peaceful thanks to the Egyptians. The sad part is, I think South Africa could have done it. South Africa's got a good relation with Hamas. They just had to say, Hamas, don't put your members on the border. You're a hostile nation to Israel. If you're going to come to the border, there are going to be killings. And the thing I'm still pushing the South African government to do, there hasn't been a South African government official in Israel for almost 4 years since President Zuma's envoys left, Aziz Pahad and them, and we've got no knowledge of what's really going on the ground. So we're making these decisions by sound bites, and it's just it's very unfortunate.
I would just like to challenge you, however. I mean, we say it's a decision on a sound bite, but I think it's a decision on actual human lives. I mean, how can we justify, and perhaps maybe, I don't know how you can even justify the loss of and the killing of 50 Palestinians during a peaceful march, and I'm not even talking about those that have been injured. I mean, this is live gunfire.
So first of all, it wasn't a peaceful march. I mean, and Hamas is now admitting that most of the people killed were its members. Hamas is a terrorist organization. And what I do like about Hamas is they tell you what they want to do. They want the destruction of the Jewish state, they want the invasion, and they want the massacre of Israelis. Hamas tells us, it's in their charter, they tell it all the time. It wasn't a protest. It wasn't like our Northwest protests of service deliveries or whatever. This was specifically an invasion. They were trying to break the fence. Now, if you understand the history, basically, the Palestinians in Gaza wanted all Jews out of Gaza. They wanted what the Nazis had in Germany. They wanted Ehrenreich, no Jews allowed. So fine, Sharon made their decision possible in 2006. He withdrew all the Israeli civilian population. He withdrew the army. He withdrew everything. And then for a year, it wasn't too bad. And then Hamas does an illegal coup against the Palestinian Authority, kicks them out. I mean, if it wasn't for Israel, Mahmoud Abbas would either be in jail or dead over that coup. Israel had to allow him through to get him to the West Bank. And from that moment, Hamas has made its life mission to try and hurt and destroy Israel. So it did its Katyushas, it did its attack tunnels, and Israel every time is defending its civilians. So it did the Iron Dome, it did the attack tunnel technology. Now they're using their own people as cannon fodder to try and cross the border. And what I tell people is, what do they want to get across the border for? It's an international recognized border. They're not coming to buy milk and honey. They're coming to kill and massacre. And Israel, which is not going to allow that to happen, did they use excessive force? I actually can't tell you. I'm not on the ground. I do suggest if the South Africans want to understand, the South African government want to understand the real situation and don't want to play local politics, but actually want to be a true...
I'm sure... I do think that I don't think our government would make a rash decision like that without knowing more information on the ground than this. But I mean, I don't want to get into the specifics because I don't think that this is what this conversation is really about. I'm not going to be talking about the conflict. We have got a Palestinian representative who's going to come and also talk from his perspective. What I want to know from you, however, what do you hope to achieve from the meeting with President Cyril Ramaphosa?
So we're waiting for the meeting, and our big thing is we just want President Cyril Ramaphosa to behave like President Jacob Zuma did or President Mbeki did. Engage. There is no point in disengaging. We have the same objective as the government. That is, we believe in a two-state solution, we believe in the creation of a Palestinian state, and we want end of conflict. So we're very comfortable. We've got the same end game. Our view is you are behaving so un-South African. You are behaving so how the ANC behaved throughout its negotiation through the apartheid regime. Don't blame one side against the other. And they made their decision to pull out their ambassador literally in 3 hours after the numbers were coming. 2 days later, Hamas is admitting that a lot of those people were armed Hamas militants. So, you know, thank goodness for Egypt. I must say we have to give Egypt full credit. They put a lot of pressure on Hamas to pull the protesters back, and we've had no loss of life for 2 days.
One final comment. I don't want to steal more time from my next interview, but there's also a proposal, and it's been said that our Home Affairs Minister, Malusi Gigaba, I'm sure you're aware of this, wants to take to Cabinet the fact that Israeli visa regulations are too lenient here in South Africa, and they want to tighten this as well for checks and balances for Israelis coming and visiting South Africa, and also the issue of dual citizenship. Does this worry you? I mean, this is even a further stance from South Africa.
And once again, it's just an attack on the Jewish state. They haven't done that for any of the ISIS operatives. I mean, we have South Africans who have gone through Turkey, trained in Syria, ISIS operative known, and they allowed back. Now all of a sudden Israelis who want to come and see our country and want to be good, it's just an attack on the Jewish state again. So we're very upset as the local Jewish community of the double standards.
Okay, all right, we leave it there. Thank you for your opinions. Thank you very much for coming and giving us your point of view. Zef Krengel is the Vice President of the South African Jewish Board of Deputies. Now, to get a response to all of this, we have got Alex Mdekane from BDS South Africa. They're going to be talking from the Palestinian perspective. Do stay tuned. That's after the break.